We are rolling along in Lenexa at their brand new police department that opened up last August. It is just absolutely beautiful. I'm staring right now at what it looks like. What do you think, Chris? An 82-inch television we got here in this beautiful room, give or take. We got engineering star Chris Castro with us, of course, on the scene here at KCMO. We are happy to welcome on and say good morning to Officer Amy Rainiag, joining us on 95.7 FM. And she has been here with the Lenexa Police Department for 3.5 years. And Amy, you spent your entire life and career with the Los Angeles County Police Department, correct?
Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
Sheriff's Department, wow. So you're here. What brought you to Lenexa, Kansas, after your entire life and career is spent in Los Angeles?
Well, I retired in 2019, and at the time I had a 2-year-old daughter, and my husband and I decided that we did not want to raise our children in California, and found Johnson County, Kansas.
So how does that happen? How do you find Johnson County, Kansas as a lifelong Los Angeles resident?
To be fair, I did have a neighbor in Los Angeles who was from Overland Park, Kansas. She graduated KU, and we became really close. And so all I heard was her little fun town in Kansas, her small town. It's great. And I came to visit, and I fell in love instantly.
Now, is she still in California?
Nope, she's back here in Kansas.
Oh, she's back here too?
Yes.
Okay. So who came back first? Did you come back first or did she come back?
She came back first, and for about 6 months, and I would come out and visit her, and that's when I fell in love, and then, we decided to come to Kansas.
So you decided to come to Kansas, so you have a child now who's about 8 years old.
She's 9. And
she's 9, okay.
Yes, and I had, when I decided to retire and sell our house and move here, of course, I was pregnant with my son. So, we have our Kansas baby, our one Kansan.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. He's 5 now.
That's great. That's great.
So I have 2 little ones.
So this is now home for you. You've been here 3.5 years. And what has just the difference been after spending a life and a career with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department to now being here in Lenexa?
I think with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and the areas I worked, it's huge. And just to kind of give you an example, Los Angeles County alone has 9.8 million residents.
Wow.
Yeah, 9.8 million in the county. State of Kansas, I believe, has
3 million.
3 million.
Yeah.
So I feel like when I'm here and I'm working in the community, especially Lenexa, I feel like I connect more with the community members. I see familiar faces. They recognize me. They know me. They remember me from maybe the last special event that I worked. So it's completely different. It's night and day.
Yeah, that's amazing. So take me through, I know that you spent a lot of time when you were in L.A., in Compton. You did a lot of gang investigation work. Now, what does that look like? How has that translated for you here in Lenexa? Obviously, we're not Compton. So, but there is still, there are parts of this community that do have very high crime, and some of that can filter into places like Lenexa. So what have you been doing and working on that front, and how do you bring that expertise over from what you dealt with in L.A.?
I've been very fortunate. A lot of my supervisors and my partners, they have asked me, and kind of leaned on me for my experience. The gangs here, we don't obviously have a problem here in the city of Lenexa, but we do have gangs that come in from, the KCMO side, KCK side, and they come through our area. And sometimes that brings nothing, and sometimes that brings, crime. They come over here, they might do, vehicle burglary or try, rob somebody, and then they go back to their safe hole. But the detectives we have here are fantastic, and we always end up identifying them and trying, take them into custody as quickly as we possible to make sure that our citizens trust us to, keep them safe from that type of activity.
How are these gangs different? How do they operate differently from L.A.?
LA is very structured. The gang scene started back in the 60s with the Bloods and the Crips. It extends into our county jails and into our prison systems in California. Essentially, the prison gangs control almost everything that happens on the streets.
Really?
When it comes to green lighting other gangs, maybe putting a hit out on police officers and whatnot. So it's very structured and very deep rooted. Here, you do have some of that, but you also have a lot of gangs that maybe have come up from Texas or come down from Chicago. You have a lot of hybrid gangs, so they don't necessarily have that structure. And then you have a lot of young kids that maybe come from a bad family, they don't have a good family, or their family's only been in gangs, so that's all they know. So these young kids are now trying to come up and be a hardcore gang member. And I've always said that juvenile gangs are probably the most violent. If you think of like a baby rattlesnake, when they strike, they don't know how to control their venom. It's kind of like juveniles. They want to make a name for themselves, but they don't understand those consequences. So whereas like say maybe an older generation gang member who might, I'll just use, carjacking, for example. They might carjack you, but they're not there to hurt you. They just want your car. But they're doing it in a violent way. Whereas like a juvenile, if you try and fight back, she's like, oh, that's just a kid. He might react a lot more violently without thinking of those consequences.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Now, I know you're also obviously a school resource officer, which has got to be the most, well, I don't want to speak for you, but it's got to be a very enjoyable part of the job here in Lenexa.
It is fantastic. And I have a great school. Shout out to my Mill Creek Mustangs out there
great.
in DeSoto School District.
That's amazing. So what's that been like? I don't know if you did any of that when you were in LA County, but what is that part of the job like for you now?
I did not do that. And when I took the school resource officer spot, I thought, this might be a fun transition, something I haven't done. Let me challenge myself working with juveniles. And it has been, I'm having a blast. I have a great admin team out there. I love being around all the kids. Sometimes, they see me walking down the hall. I'm like, oh gosh, is she going after somebody, or is she going to give me high fives in the hallway? Typically, I'm just out there giving high fives and trying to, make, those relationships with the kids and reach out to them and whatnot. Just let them know that I'm there for them. It's the best part of the job is make sure that they're safe.
So how do you, because if you've got one hat that's school resource officer, I feel like that's probably a completely separate mentality compared to dealing with gang intelligence, even though, this is Kansas City and not LA County. Still, those are two very different hats. So how do you balance that and get yourself into the right frame of mind depending on which role you're in?
I wish I had an answer for that. I wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, I know.
I do. I wear a lot of hats. It actually being at the school, I'm out there, during passing periods, when they're in the cafeteria, and whenever, something happens, I'm there. But then it also gives me a little bit of downtime. So if one of my midnight officers texts me or emails me and said, hey, I came across this graffiti, what's it mean? Then it gives me a little bit of time that I could actually look into it and investigate it, maybe try and do some follow-up for them because they work the midnight shift. So it gives me a little bit of chance to actually work on that stuff, also while still being present at the school. So I balance it pretty well.
That's amazing. Well, you retired from the LA Sheriff's Department in 2019, so you missed all the 2020 insanity. God bless you. You got out of LA about 3.5 years ago, which was probably on the front end of the mass exodus too. So you've been kind of ahead of the trends here. And that's worked out pretty well for you, I would imagine.
Oh, it's been fantastic. Actually, I've been in Kansas now since 2019. I came this summer of 2019.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did, yeah. So a lot of my partners from back home would text me and message me like, you got out just in time. How did you do it? I need some advice. I want to get out. So that's been so I've kind of watched all of it. And then my husband immediately moved here and went to work with Overland Park Police Department. And my brother-in-law also moved here and went to work right away for Olathe Police Department. So I was still in the mix listening to, what was going on and, watching the news and whatnot. And I have to say, Kansas compared to LA, it was night and day watching that on the news. I would watch, the news and hear the KCPD give the curfew order, and then everybody would be like, okay, it's time to go home, and then they would go away, and then you'd watch that in LA, and they're like, what order? It was chaos.
What order? What are we burning down next? And the whole thing. Oh my God. So have you seen a lot of your former colleagues just try to unfortunately flee LA?
Yes. Or when I post something about how awesome my new job is, they'll message me like, I'm so happy for you. Kansas is treating you well. And, I show them I've showed them pictures of the station and they're like, man, must be nice.
Oh, man. Gosh. Yeah. Well, we're glad that you're here, and I'm glad it's working out for you, your husband, and those two little kids as well.
Thank you so much.
Well, Amy Rainieg joining us on KCMO, Lenexa police officer. We are here for our Back the Blue. This is tour stop number 9 on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. We are streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
KCMO's Back the Blue Tour stop number 9 is live from Lenexa. Here's Pete Mundo.
Well, we are rolling through it in Lenexa at their beautiful new police department here on KCMO 95.7 FM. That story from Amy Rainieg, who was just on the show, who has been with the department for 3.5 years. I mean, that right there, I know that, listen, we can have more commentary on the politics of the moment than she as a professional would want to have on the air, and good on her for that. But you have an officer who spent her entire life and career in LA County, who now finds herself in Lenexa, living in Overland Park, working for Lenexa PD. Her husband works for the Overland Park PD. Her brother-in-law's here working for Olathe PD. They all fled California. And they fled before it got really nuts. I mean, it was only mostly nuts when they got out. Now it's completely insane. And you feel bad for these communities. Now, those communities losing good people is obviously a net benefit for us here, in this case, Johnson County, at some of our municipalities. But it's like, it's untenable in some of these communities. I can't imagine having spent the last 5 years with the LA County Sheriff's Department, and she moves for family, for cost of living, for quality of life. She had never been here in her life. She had a neighbor who just happened to be from Overland Park and went to KU and would talk about how great it was here. And that neighbor actually ends up bringing her back to her home. And I know some of you are going to be, looking at someone from California and saying, I don't know about these Californians coming here. Hey, it's like we always talk about on the show. We are a welcoming community. Just know what you're leaving, okay? And know why you are leaving. That's the most important thing. And that's what too many Californians or, New Yorkers or whatever don't understand. If you're going to leave deep blue messes for, generally speaking, redder areas, then don't bring your deep blue hot garbage to the place that you're leaving. Understand why you left. Accept the reasons for why you left. Incompetency in state government, incompetency in local government, high taxes, poor housing policy that leads to, obviously, really high housing costs, poor policing, not because of the cops themselves, but because of the politicians. If you accept why you have left and you realize, boy, I don't want to go back to that, then we'll have you. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. I'm starting year 8 on this show here on KCMO this week. This is the start of year 8 here on KCMO. I had worked in this part of the country. My first full-time radio job was in Northwest Oklahoma. And I loved this part of the country, but I, spent 5 years after that in New York City and doing stuff at Fox and CBS and a lot of other places while I was there. And as much as, it was the place that I grew up, I knew it wasn't the place necessarily that I would want to or frankly be able to raise a family as we wanted to do it. So we come back out here. We had looked at 3 cities, Kansas City and Oklahoma City and Dallas. They were all on the short list. And thank goodness this has been home for us. All 3 girls have been born here, and we're thrilled to call it home. But obviously, doing this every day, it's very clear to you what our values are, what my values are, and why I would never try to push values that have failed the citizens onto any of us. In fact, there's a creep here in the Kansas City area, in some parts of our metro, to bring some of that craziness to parts of Kansas City. And it's not, it's not just KCMO. There's some craziness, trust me, in some of our suburbs that we cover all the time. There are heavy-handed governments. Heck, look at what happened in Westwood this week, where basically you had a government try to bully its citizens into selling a park so they could make a fortune off of a mixed-use space. And thankfully, the citizens won out. It's happened in Prairie Village. It's happened, unfortunately, at times in Overland Park, like it or not. But just know why you left and why you want the freedom that so many of us here in Kansas City and surrounds enjoy and appreciate. We got those Dave Ramsey tickets we'll give away. A final one for us this week at 7:45. and also a chance to meet Dave Ramsey. All coming up as we continue from the Lenexa Police Department on KCMO.
KCMO's Back the Blue Tour, stop number 9, is live from Lenexa. Here's Pete Mundo.
And we are continuing in Lenexa at their beautiful, brand new police department headquarters here on KCMO Talk Radio. And dispatch supervisor Kristen Boyes joining us on 95.7 FM, 12 years on the job, 3 years as supervisor. And Kristen, we appreciate you being here on KCMO. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, take me through as dispatch supervisor. We talked about the fact that, boy, we have done a lot of these, and you might be the first department we've talked to that has a fully staffed dispatch department. So what do you attribute that to other than your outstanding leadership, of course?
Of course, yeah. I think it's just our culture. You know, we have a very good culture here at Lenexa. We are very much like a family, and they take very good care of us. They provide us everything that we need to kind of do the job and work together. I think our dispatchers all get along very well, work together very well, and have great relationships with our officers also.
So what's your turnaround time on these calls? How quickly do you know that off? How quickly you guys are answering these calls?
Within seconds.
Within seconds, all right. Because I know that like KCMO has had huge wait time issues with their dispatchers, and it's just because of the staffing problems they've got over there right now.
Right, yeah, and we're lucky, you know, being fully staffed. We have 1 or 2 call takers on at all times, and then if they're not able to answer calls, it will cycle over into someone working a different channel. But
it does.
You know, we're within seconds of answering every single call.
That's one of those things because no one wants to call you. Let's be honest. And if they are calling you, boy, there's a damn good reason they're calling you.
Right.
So having that peace of mind for residents, I got to imagine is very important. Now, for you as well, use of technology I know has grown a lot over your 12 years on the job. We were just talking about how you're launching a drone program here in Lenexa. So you've already been able to utilize that. What does that look like?
So yeah, we'll be launching drones. In dispatch, we'll be the ones to kind of launch the drones from different buildings throughout the city. We had one specifically that we were able to launch a drone on an accident, and we were on scene with the drone, had eyes on the vehicle, and could kind of update officers and medical personnel as to what was going on scene at time.
I mean, you're talking about potentially saving lives in situations like that. You've got a drone there, and you can tell the medical crew and the police officers what they're coming into, right?
Correct.
So you're going to have dispatch. Are the dispatch folks going to be the ones controlling the drones?
We will be, yeah. And then once officers are on scene and the drone's on scene, officers can take over control.
Yeah.
But we'll be the initial kind of dispatch them to the area and look for whatever it is we're looking for.
Wow. So are you training everybody? Are you trained on the drones already, or is that happening
So we're
right
in
now?
the process of getting all of dispatch trained right now. So within the next 2 weeks, everybody will be trained and ready to go.
So is this like, is it like a handheld device, like a video game that you kind of control the drone with?
It'll all be through our computer. So through an app on the computer, we'll just kind of direct it where it needs to go. We put in the address and it kind of flies on its own, and then we can change it up as needed if we need to change the flight path.
So it flies on its own?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you put in the address and it just goes?
It just goes.
Man, that's incredible. Gosh, that's amazing. And how many other departments have this option, or is it fairly new to Kansas City?
Yeah, to my knowledge, it's fairly new here. So I think we might be one of the first that's getting this, and we'll be able to.
So what would that be? What would the drones be used? I mean, your rollover accident is a good example. I'm trying to think, what are the other major things that it would be utilized for?
So we use our current traffic cameras to try to find suspects or try to find suspect vehicles to help officers. So the drone will just be kind of along with that to get into areas that we can't see with our traffic camera. We'll be able to get a drone in, much closer and areas that traffic cameras obviously wouldn't go. So, if they're looking for somebody that, a theft suspect from a business, we can easily get to that area and be able to look for the description of that suspect or people hiding behind buildings or areas like that.
How big are these drones? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So, because you've got to go through the training
That's
yourself,
right?
right? Now, I wonder, KCMO obviously has a robust, they'll use helicopters in police chases and things like that. Could it replace that in theory over the long term? Is that something that could be of use?
I think it definitely could be of use. Obviously, we'll be able to get to, like I said, kind of areas that we've never been able to go before, and areas that the helicopter wouldn't be able to get to, probably. So.
Wow, that's amazing. What about traffic cameras? Obviously, I know that's a big use for you here with the Lenexa Police Department. Because traffic cameras are sometimes controversial amongst residents, for better or for worse. But how do you utilize them to your advantage?
So we use them to follow cars, obviously, in camera, whether they're suspects in something or an officer's trying to locate a person from like one of our LPR hits or something along
What's
those
LPR?
lines. Our license plate readers.
Oh, okay.
So, if we're looking for, a stolen vehicle that's hit a license plate reader, we can easily, officer might be in a different part of the city. So we've got traffic cameras all over that we can find them and kind of follow them while officers get set up in the area to safely try to stop that vehicle.
So from that perspective, I mean, how long have you had those traffic cameras?
We've had those since I've been here.
Oh,
so,
okay. You
so
have.
before that, yeah.
And how much does it benefit officers in just doing their job and being more efficient in their job?
I think it makes it more efficient and also safer. They don't have to try to find, like I said, like a stolen vehicle or something like that. They don't have to get behind it right away and kind of tip off that we're in the area. We can get set up around it and get several more officers to the area so that, they're able to then safely stop that vehicle.
How have you seen Lenexa just change over your 12 years on the job?
It's getting bigger.
Yeah.
Obviously we're spreading west and getting bigger, so a lot more call volume, I feel like. We stay busy, so that's good.
Has the type of call volume changed, or is it still a lot of just the same kind of calls, just more of them?
I think just more of them. I work midnights mostly, so I get a lot of the more exciting calls than maybe some of our day shift people. There's definitely still some crime, but we're trying to run it out as best we can. But just the call volume has gotten a little bit bigger and wider. And
So are you still doing midnights?
I'm still doing midnights.
Is that because you like it?
Yeah, it's mostly because I like it. It works in my family life, and I like the call types. I like the excitement of midnights.
Well, I was going to say, it takes a certain kind of person to take those midnight calls, right?
Yep.
When you think about all your years doing it, how is it different when you're dealing with people who, let's be honest, late at night, maybe drinking, maybe, just not in the right frame of mind? How do you try to talk them into a safe place, so to speak?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the excitement of the job, right? Is to understand what the person needs and to take those people who are maybe hysterical callers, that are having their worst moment, or maybe, like you said, they're intoxicated, they're not in their best state of mind, and try to get them the help they need, but also try to help them understand, that we are coming, try to give them that peace of mind that helps on the way, and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's got to be something. Is that something that you're taught, or is that really learned over years of experience?
A little of both. We have a great training program here. It takes 25 weeks to get through our training to be a dispatcher here. And so I think we try to show you everything that we can, but obviously you're not going to get all those calls during training. So as you go along, you kind of just learn from experience and have to take difficult callers and learn how to just kind of talk to people. And
I got to imagine that dispatch is a high turnover industry in general, because some people will just realize after a few weeks, man, I'm not cut out for this, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And what do you know early on? I mean, obviously you want to hire somebody with the best intentions of, hey, they're going to be here for a while, but it's kind of what you alluded to. It's one thing to train, it's another thing to then do it. Right? Yep. And you probably can tell pretty quickly whether or not somebody's cut out for it.
Absolutely. And we kind of always say if we hire two people, one of them's going to make it.
Okay, that's good.
That's kind of just the turnover of it. But yeah, you can usually tell kind of just by personality how they handle those kind of calls, kind of the little more maybe scary calls or, more intense calls. You can usually tell pretty early on if they're going to be able to handle it. They are able to control a conversation. That's kind of our biggest thing, is being able to lead the conversation where we need it to go, even when somebody's kind of hysterical or out of it a little bit.
Are you fully staffed? You're hiring right now?
We are pretty much fully staffed. Yep.
That's impressive, because we hear a lot of dispatch offices that are struggling to get by right now.
Yep.
That's a testament to what you have going on here in Lenexa.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, Kristen. We appreciate the time.
All right, thank you.
Lenexa Dispatch Supervisor Kristen Boyes at the Lenexa Police Department. Back to Blue Tour, stop at number 9 on KCMO Talk Radio. For our final time this week, we've got those tickets to see Dave Ramsey and Dr. John Deloney at the Kansas City Music Hall for their Money and Marriage Tour coming up on Friday, May 9th. One lucky winner will also get a VIP pass to go meet Dave and John backstage before the show. 7:45 every morning this week, and then your final chance on the station at 10:45 with Kevin Keatsman. So 7th caller right now, 913-408-7957. Coming up next, Well, it looks like it's going to be another ugly day for the markets. We'll tell you what happened this morning and explain it next.
KCMO's Back the Blue Tour, stop number 9, is live from Lenexa. Here's Pete Mundo.
All right there, Big Mark holding it down back in the studio. Who won the Dave Ramsey tickets on this Friday morning?
John and Gardner is the big winner this morning, so congrats to him.
All right. Attaboy, John. Attaboy, my man. Well done. And your next chance, your final chance to win this week is at 10:45 with Kevin Keatsman on KCMO Talk Radio. So we are monitoring the markets. Big news coming down early this morning. China has hit the U.S. with reciprocal tariffs, what they're calling it, 34% tariff on U.S. imports. Of course, a response to the president and his decision from 2 days ago to put widespread tariffs across the board on countries across the world. So this is a 34% tariff on imports coming from the U.S. into China, announced by China's finance ministry early this morning. The Dow futures off another 1,000 points. The NASDAQ off 600 points. So the markets obviously are not liking this. And here locally, you've got a big statement here from Emmanuel Cleaver. It is 3 paragraphs long. So this may be the longest statement Emmanuel Cleaver has written in his entire public career. Cleaver's statement on President Trump levying national import tax and instigating global trade war. This is the headline that Kansas City Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver has on his social media pages. He writes here, tariffs are not an all-encompassing economic strategy, at least not the one that is made for long-term prosperity. When used appropriately, they are a tool in America's toolbox to protect vital industries and our national security. When used inappropriately, as I believe the president is doing with across-the-board import taxes on our allies and adversaries alike, they lead to higher prices, fewer jobs, slower economic growth, and more contentious relationships with nations around the world. With inflation already on the rise again due to previously implemented tariffs, this is a recipe for disaster. I'm just glad that Emmanuel Cleaver, after 5 years, is recognizing inflation happened in this country. Aren't you? He writes here, Missouri families, including our farmers, are already struggling with the cost of living. Another admission that we didn't get until now from Emmanuel Cleaver, but it's nice to actually hear. But rather than focusing on lowering essentials like groceries, housing, and health care, President Trump has instigated, per Cleaver, a reckless trade war, and the American people will pay the price. The president has admitted himself that these new taxes will create more pain for American families, farmers, and small businesses, saying that he could not care less about the prospect of higher prices on everything from cars to groceries. Well, he didn't say that about groceries. He did say that about vehicles. Well, the American people care, and they will make their feelings known if the president does not quickly reverse course, repair the relationships that America has spent decades forging, and focus on lowering costs for the public. That was the official statement from Emmanuel Cleaver, and then he also had a secondary statement that read as follows.
You mustard moo.
Yep, that was the secondary statement that came from Cleaver as well after the official statement dropped yesterday afternoon. Listen, it's a high-stakes, high-risk gamble that Donald Trump is taking here. We all know that. But if it was all about portfolios and if elections were determined by the stock market, Kamala Harris would have won in a landslide. Joe Biden spent $300 billion the last couple of months to try to goose the stock market with cheap money to try to basically buy people's votes into saying, you know what, I'll keep this thing going with Kamala. And it's why the stock market did so well in the wake of COVID. And by the way, some of that is obviously Trump's fault because we spent way too much money that we did not have during COVID-19. And we got addicted to this cheap, easy money. And then we paid the price by way of inflation. And it's been obviously a very difficult 4 years on that front with 20 to 25% price hikes across the board and a jobs market that, unless you work in government in some capacity, has not exactly been on fire. I mean, the Bureau of Labor Statistics show that for the last few years, the government has been a top 3 employer in this country, and that's also not sustainable. you can't keep growing government at that pace without growing the private sector. The path we were on was unsustainable. Now, do I think that these tariffs are magically going to turn course for the country? I'm hesitant to believe that's going to be the case, but I also knew that Donald Trump was somebody who ran on this idea. I mean, I keep hearing this narrative that there is buyer's remorse from Trump voters because of what's happened this week. And I can't imagine that that is actually the case broadly speaking. Broadly speaking, assuming that you care about the country beyond like your own portfolio next week. Because he ran on this idea, he knew and he admitted, and he also at least said there was going to be pain, right? Like that's one thing that I do at least appreciate. He's been honest with us about pain and saying, yes, there will be some pain, but we're playing a long game here on resetting the economy for America to work for everybody, to work for a robust middle class, to work for Main Street and not just work for Wall Street. He's at least been honest about that. The other guys, when's the last time they were honest with you? I mean, they told you inflation was transitory. Then they were like, it's not that bad. Then it was like, everything's great. Look at the stock market. They basically buried their heads in the sand and tried to convince you that things were much better than they actually were. And if you didn't think they were that good, well, guess what? That's on you. So you never got this level of honesty from them on a lot of the stuff that we've seen at least this week. How much pain are people willing to endure on the markets? Does inflation actually start to pick up again? It's entirely possible that it does. And that's why there's got to be a plan here from the administration on what that looks like, how much pain they are willing to endure, how much pain the American people are willing to endure, and whether or not this is something that actually does backfire. I hope it doesn't. I've got the guy's back. It's what I knew he was going to try to do, so I'm not backing off him at all. And I know many of you are not going to back off him at all. And the other thing I can't help but think about here is that the people who have been wrong about literally everything for the last 5 years are like the most outraged by this. The people who are wrong about COVID, the people who are wrong about, defunding the police, the people who are wrong about inflation, spending money we don't have on dumb things like green energy plans left and right, all the way through this past November. The people who have been wrong about every single thing for half a decade are the most outraged. Now, maybe that blind squirrel does find that nut once in the blue moon. A broken clock is right twice a day. Maybe this is their moment. It might be. It very well might be. But a part of me can't help but think about that as well. Coming up, we will continue from Lenexa. We are here for Back the Blue Tour stop number 9. And we will be joined by their chief, Dawn Lehman. She is coming up next. And then Mark Falter of the Retirement Income Hour. We'll react to these markets right when they open at 8:30 on KCMO. We are continuing from the Lenexa Police Department. It is our Back the Blue tour stop now, number 9, first one of 2025 on KCMO 95.7 FM. And we are happy to welcome on and say good morning to the police chief in Lenexa. Dawn Lehman is here. Chief, good morning. Thanks for being on KCMO.
Good morning to you, and thanks for having us.
So, well, 32 years for you in Lenexa PD. So you've seen this town change a little bit over the last 32 years, huh?
Absolutely.
What has been the biggest change that you have noticed during your time here with the department?
Well, probably several, but I would say obviously the growth. I think when I started, our population was in the mid-30s, and now it's about 58,000. And then kind of along with that, just all the technology and change that has come to law enforcement.
And I got to imagine, with growth, listen, comes sometimes more problems, whether you like it or not, right? And that's
Correct.
something that you've got to change how you run a department sometimes.
Right. One of our kind of themes or mottos is being flexible, nimble, and agile. And that's what we do. We change with the times. Some people don't like change, but also there's need for change at times. And we just have to be flexible in that and really do what our community wants us to do.
Well, you have this amazing facility. It's 6 months old at this point, give or take?
Correct. We've been in the building about 220 days
Okay.
since August. And I think one of the things with this building is we didn't want it just to be this white kind of government, just sterile facility. We wanted it to be welcoming, not only for our employees because they're here so much time, but also for the community to come in. We have a great community room that our community members can reserve and have like HOA meetings and things like that, but really bringing the community into Lenexa. And I think if you look at the building, you can see through our building from the front all the way to the back from the glass. And I do believe that it's very inviting, and I think it's very inviting to our officers that are here.
It's just an amazing building. Now, recruiting and expectations. I know, listen, the reality is police departments around America have struggled over the last few years to recruit. So how do you balance filling the jobs you have to fill while also keeping the expectations high?
Right. I think our philosophy is we don't just take anyone, right? We don't want to fill a position, what we would say sometimes, with a warm body, right? We're looking for people that really can extend our culture and our philosophy of policing. And really our why is exceptional service, providing exceptional service internally, but also externally to our community. So we're looking for cream of the crop individuals to come into our department. So currently right now we have about 8 openings. And our goal really, I think when you look at policing and how we police, is we call our policing the Lenexa way. We're always going to be pushing the boundaries, not only in our recruiting or how we do things, but also with our technology. So an individual wanting to get into law enforcement is going to come in here and actually be able to be proactive. We want our officers to be proactive, and also problem solvers, but also interacting with the community. We have a 94% approval rating from our community when we do our direction finder survey that we do every other year. That's pretty good.
I'd say that's pretty good.
Right.
94%. I'd take that every time.
Exactly. And I think part of that, or part of the culture here, is that we are supported by our community. We are supported by our governing body and the other management staff in Lenexa. And I feel that our officers know that they are valued and supported, not only internally within our organization, but also in our community. So it makes a great environment for individuals coming into this community to work here.
That's amazing. Dawn Lehman is the Lenexa police chief. She's on KCMO Talk Radio. So I know technology is a huge part of what we've talked about this morning, and it seems like Lenexa's on the cutting edge for a lot of this new development in technology to make the department more efficient, which frankly is better for the taxpayer as well. So what are some of the big changes on that front?
Yeah, I know our dispatcher, Kristen Boyes, earlier mentioned our drone as a first responder program. So we are right now kind of in a pilot program with that. But basically what that does, our dispatchers are able to send that on calls from dispatch. So that drone gets there kind of as the crow flies, so to speak. So that drone is getting to our scenes about 1.5 to 2 minutes before our patrol officers are able to arrive, or fire service. And what that does is gives us a great amount of situational awareness before we arrive, and that's invaluable. So, and then the other aspect of that is if we get a call or a disturbance call or a subject maybe who's sitting in a car, person with a gun, why would we send an officer up initially to that when we have this drone that can go up? I think it's more safe for our community and for people around to have that situational awareness before we arrive on calls.
Do you think that, I mean, I can't imagine why this would not be a tool that would be used by departments all over the country over the next several years. Obviously, there's funding that will be tied to it, and you got to figure out that part of it. But it just seems like such a benefit to the department to kind of know what you're walking up against, right, and walking into.
Absolutely. And I do think that you will see more of this coming in this area. It's been very successful. One of the departments out in California, Chula Vista Police Department, has had it for several years. And I think they were kind of on the cutting edge kind of in their area. But there's multiple benefits. I would say it's a game changer for law enforcement.
How are the video cameras on those drones? Are they pretty clear?
Yes, they're very clear. And the other aspect of that is when the drone is launched, you can have certain people within the department that have access to that. So I get a notification on my phone. So like our commanders and things would get that notification, can click on the link and actually see in live time what is occurring. So they're able to kind of make better decisions as well before the officers arrived on scene.
How big are these drones?
So they're, the box, it actually has a little hangar kind of deal that it opens up. So about 3 foot by 3 foot.
Okay.
So it's actually kind of interesting to see it deploy, but the sides of the box open up and the drone takes off. It's kind of probably something that you would have seen in some like sci-fi movies in the past, but it's very interesting to see it deploy. And then it lands itself. So there's a QR code on the landing pad and it kind of sees that when it comes back, it lands, and then the hangar kind of closes around it.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, I know the importance for you of getting citizen feedback. You got a 94% approval in this community, which that's pretty unheard of, I would imagine. We know what not this department, but what this industry has been through the last few years. So transparency is a big deal. You've got a citizens workshop coming up here. When is it, and really what's the goal of it?
Right, so we have a Understanding Police Use of Force workshop that'll be coming up on May 7th from 5:30 to 9. People can go to our Facebook page and sign up for that. But I think one of the things that we hear in law enforcement, or that we are mostly highly scrutinized on, is our use of force. And in reality, use of force is they're very minuscule amount of times that they actually occur. But I think it's important for the community to know how we investigate those types of uses of force, what our process is, what our officers go through. There's dynamic situations. We actually put them through simulators where they have to make quick decisions. And then when they come to the class, they actually debrief that and say, yeah, this is how I felt going through this. So it's very eye-opening to people that attend that. But I think it's important to get that message out there because it is one of the most highly scrutinized things that law enforcement deals with. But it also happens very rarely.
Well, I'm glad that, so the citizens can go through some of these simulators?
Correct.
Okay, because I've done that with KCPD, and it's like, and you probably know the rule, I don't, but if someone's got a knife and they're, 20 feet from you, they can close that gap in a second and a half or something?
Correct, and we go through some of those scenarios. We have some of our live scenarios that we have been through, officer-involved shootings and things like that, so that people really understand how quick it is. The other thing that I think is important through the class, we ask people to be patient in some of these investigations because the truth will come out but it takes time to investigate these. We can't just show the video immediately, things like that. It does take time, but I think going through the process with the community, I believe that they understand, you may only see a 20-second clip on the news, but there was a lot that led up to that or a lot after that. So just kind of being patient and knowing that you don't have the full story, and we will get that information to you when we can.
And that's why I think the body camera is such a game changer. I mean, I wouldn't want to do your job without it right now in this world.
I think most people today, I think they're in that position as well. They understand, our officers understand the value of it as well. And I mean, I think that too was a game changer. We were one of the first agencies back in 2009 to implement those. And yeah, it's always a tough road to make change, right? But I do believe it's kind of like wearing the seatbelt today, right? If
Yeah.
you get in your car and you don't wear it, you feel, but today I think it's the same thing for the officers.
Well, it's really great stuff. Lenexa Police Chief Don Lehman on KCMO. Chief, thank you for having us out here. This place is tremendous, and we're glad to be sharing some of the stories here from Lenexa PD.
Thank you so much.
Don Lehman on KCMO Talk Radio. Mark Falter will be here, Retirement Income Hour, bottom of the hour, right as the markets get set to open up on what should be another turbulent day. So that is all next on KCMO 95.7 FM.
KCMO Talk Radio is backing the blue. Tour stop number 9 is live from Lenexa. It's Mundo in the morning.
And it is a beautiful police department to walk into here in Lenexa. And the first thing one of the gentlemen asked me as we got going here, and he's done a great job helping us coordinate this, Danny Chavez with the Lenexa Police Department. He goes, hey, yeah. I was like, wow, this place is nice. He's like, you ever been here before? It's like, no, I try to avoid our police departments as much as I can, to be totally honest. I mean, I love you guys. I got your back more than anybody in Kansas City media, but I try to not spend much time in police departments. It's, so far I've done a pretty good job of that, by the way. I'll say that much. I should probably knock on wood as I make that statement, but I do my best to avoid police departments in my spare time. So that's why it's great to come out here and see some of these spots as well and see, these buildings. Olathe's got a new department. We were there last year. You've got this new one now in Lenexa. They are renovating some of these police departments all over our metro as well. So KCMO got a bunch of renovations to its various police department locations around town over the last few years. And that's actually, what's on the ballot coming up on Tuesday, of course, is this, what's being dubbed the jail tax. And what it is an infrastructure tax. It's a rollover of a sales tax for 20 years. And what it will be used for, at least the bulk of it will be used for, is building the new jail downtown. What it's been used for over the last bunch of years is basically refurbishing all the different locations that KCMO has for its police department. Metro Patrol, Central Patrol, East Patrol. They upgraded a lot of those buildings, and then they also built the new facility up north, which is where I have done the virtual training with some folks in their department under the previous administration. So this new tax, or this rollover tax, not a new tax, but a rollover tax, will be used to build the jail downtown. And there are some who are against it. The Urban Council in Kansas City has come out against it. That's to be expected. They're against everything. They're also the ones who wanted to fire Brian Platt, the city manager, last week, and they got their wish there. But they're trying to call this the jail tax as if that's like a negative connotation, as if, oh, no, people in Kansas City won't vote for a jail tax. In fact, I'm fine with them dubbing it the jail tax. Usually, I would be like, hey, that's a disingenuous name for this issue, this tax, whatever it might be. You want to call it the jail tax? Great. I'll double down on that. I'll play your game when it comes to this one, because guess what? The damn city needs a jail. You're shipping people out to Johnson County, Missouri and Vernon County, Missouri. It's ridiculous. It's long overdue for Kansas City to bring back a jail. I mean, even Quentin Lucas is endorsing it. Like the Kansas City Star even endorsed it. And then they took a shower because they were so disgusted with themselves. If you read their endorsement in the Kansas City Star, and I read it yesterday, I'm not going to bore you with it on the air, but basically it's like 1,000 words of them hedging themselves, being like, we're endorsing this, but we still know that cops can't always be trusted and law enforcement has a lot of problems, but we're going to endorse the new jail. Even they could not get themselves, as woke as they are, to go against having a jail in downtown Kansas City, Missouri, which tells you a lot, okay? If the Star can even figure out a way to get itself on the right side on this deal and endorse a tax or an extension of a tax to build a jail downtown, you know just how bad it is. Because if there is anybody in this community who wants to find itself on, first off, just the wrong side in general, but certainly the anti-cop side, it is the Kansas City Star. They, generally speaking, cannot help themselves on this front. So when they come around, you know that we are in a place where it's long overdue. Long overdue. Of course, they weren't doing this back in 2020 when people are trying to burn down the plaza. Then they were supporting the Kansas City, Missouri City Council at that time, dropping charges of protesters who had broken the law. Never forget that. One of the most insane things I've seen in my time here on KCMO. But they will conveniently sweep that one under the rug. Now, we are just a couple of minutes away from the markets opening up here at 8:30 on KCMO Talk Radio, and the futures are down 1,000 points on the Dow, 2.5%. S&P futures are also off 2.5%. NASDAQ futures off 500 points, 2.5%. So the Dow is set to open up off 1,000 points. After yesterday, it dropped 1,600 points for its worst day since 2020. Of course, the tariffs are the main driver on this, and this morning you had China announce that they will have a 34% reciprocal tariff on the United States. So the trade war is officially underway. Mark Falter is with the Retirement Income Hour. He's going to join us here in a few minutes. But I do want to also note this here. I dug up the old Barack Obama clip, and I want to play this from Barack Obama talking about tariffs that he put on China to help our workers. Let's roll the tape from a presidential debate in 2012.
We had a tire case in which they were flooding us with cheap domestic tires or cheap Chinese tires. And we put a stop to it. And as a consequence, saved jobs throughout America. I have to say that Governor Romney criticized me for being too tough in that tire case. Said this wouldn't be good for American workers and that it would be protectionist. But I tell you, those workers don't feel that way. They feel as if they had finally an administration who was going to take this issue seriously.
Barack Obama in a 2012 presidential debate with Mitt Romney talking about tariffs to prevent cheap Chinese goods from flooding the U.S. market. I don't know if Trump's going to win this tariff game. I don't. He obviously took a very different approach going across the board against all countries. But certainly when it comes to China, we have got to separate ourselves from the Chinese. Of course, I mean the Chinese Communist Party, their government. We have got to separate ourselves from the communist thugs who are trying to overtake us as the world superpower and have the worst intentions in mind while doing it. That should be the least controversial thing that Trump has done during his time in office. And if you can't see that, I mean, you have got to take off those TDS glasses and look at this thing for what it is. With the markets opening up in 90 seconds, Mark Falter, our buddy with the Retirement Income Hour, he joins us the first Friday of the month. We'll get his reaction to what is happening and what the future holds next.
KCMO's Back the Blue Tour, stop number 9, is live from Lenexa. Here's Pete Mundo.
Well, the markets are just opening up. We'll continue, of course, with our Back the Blue Tour here on KCMO, but all eyes are on tariffs, the markets, and the Dow opens up off 1,000 points. This after yesterday's 1,700-point rout in the red, which was the worst day since the pandemic in 2020. And this comes after China announces this morning that they have a 34% retaliatory tariff coming against the United States. And the president putting on Truth Social here 10 minutes ago, quote, China played it wrong. They panicked. The one thing they cannot afford to do. That is Trump's response to the Chinese this morning announcing their retaliatory tariff. Mark Falter is here. You hear him Saturday and Sunday mornings at 9, Retirement Income Hour, and the Mid-America Wealth Advisory Group here in Kansas City. Mark, give me the immediate gut reaction of what we are seeing play out, and it is history in real time, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Pete, for having me on again. Yeah, it's we've been talking about this for a while. I kind of mentioned this several times. This was coming. I mean, and I said to many of my clients, if you want calm and no major change, vote for Kamala. But he's making an omelet, and he's got to break some eggs. And this is truly the art of the deal playing out in real time.
It is. You're right. Now, you said, hey, if you want calm, vote for Kamala. But we all know that it was an unsustainable path we were on with government spending and debt, and we basically were buying stock market gains with money we did not have. And if people ultimately cared about the markets, well, guess what? Kamala would be in the White House right now. She's not. So how do you read into what Trump is obviously doing, what he's attempting to achieve, and what it's going to look like here in the weeks and months ahead?
Okay, so big picture is, if you go back to what is really the big goal here, we got a $36 trillion deficit, and it's got to at least sustain itself or get paid preferably, but sustain itself. So we need more tax dollars. Well, we got these 2017 tax codes that are set to sunset in 2026. I don't think the average Joe realizes what that's going to involve when they sunset. 94% of the populace right now does not itemize. It was over 50% prior to in 2016. And the reason for that is the standard deduction more than doubled for certain people. So you got this huge standard deduction. The tax brackets changed. Everything went better for taxes. The corporations got reduced down to 21%, and from I think over 40% in 2016. So big deductions. We need more tax dollars. So in that being said, he doesn't want to raise taxes on the average Joe. So this is what his theory is. Let's get people that owe us money to pay the bill, meaning China, meaning Europe, and that's what he's attempting to do with the, I think, 34% increase with Chinese goods, 20% increase European goods, 24%, 25% on imported automobiles. So he's trying to get the tax dollars paid by everybody but us. And frankly, that's not a terrible idea, if you want my honest opinion. But it's going to come with some bumpy roads. And I told, man, if you're 3 to 5 years out from retirement or in retirement, good time to reallocate.
You know, Mark, you and I were texting about this yesterday privately, and I said it. I'm 36. I'm just kind of not looking here for a little bit, and knowing I got, God willing, 30 years of runway here. But you've said for months now on this show, if you are within a couple of years of retirement, it is on you to reallocate. Do not get greedy here in these equity markets. You've had a great 15-year run. And listen, I have no doubt that this thing will bounce back. Of course, it's a matter of when. History tells us it will. But I can't sit here and say, oh, my gosh, people's retirements are going down the drain. If you're that close to it, Mark, it's been on you to figure out how to reallocate in preparation for a long time now, right?
Yes, it has. And here's the thing, is the last year, even I would say as far back as 18 months, you've had a scenario, if you're 67 years old, let's say, or you're 72 and you're in retirement, you've had a scenario where the market's up, you can sell while it's up, And P.S., you get to move it over to something paying 4%. Now, had that happened 2 years ago, you were scared, market's down, and then you move it over to 0.00%. So it's like a double whammy. I mean, it's been a perfect scenario to reallocate, and I'm hoping a lot of people took heed to that and did the reallocation. Now, if you're your age, you need to just hang on and get ready to put some more money in, in dollar cost average.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I gave you some of my ETFs I was liking, but you know what? I didn't pull the trigger yesterday, and I'm glad I didn't because it's only going down further right now. So, I mean, are you seeing more on the downward side here? I mean, no one can predict a bottom in any of this stuff, but I mean, how much rockier do you think it can get?
It's funny you asked that question because I talked to my analyst last night, called him at about 5 o'clock, and I said to him, how much rockier do you think this can get? And he said, I really think the worst of the tariff tax news is already out there, and the market's priced it in, and it's going to go down further. It's going to go down further. I don't think that we're going to have a 2007 by any stretch of the imagination, but like I said, definitely if you're under 50 years of age, I wouldn't be selling right now. Actually, now is really right now, and this is what you got to, if you're under 50 years of age, investing for the long term, being more than 10 years, you've got to constantly remind you, first of all, don't look at your statements. That's the first advice. And secondly is remind yourself that every time you see bad news, this is when you're really making your money. This is truly the art of the deal for you, and that is you're making your money right now. Granted, you're putting it in, you put 1,000 in and it turned into $800, but you're not looking to sell that stuff short term. It's when you buy in market depreciations like this that you make your money long term.
That's a good point. Hey, let me ask you about this. There's a theory out there, and you alluded to the $36 trillion in debt. Mark Falter is here on KCMO. Does a great job, Mid-American Wealth Advisory Group. You hear him tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock and then again on Sunday. There's a theory that what Trump is doing here, knowing we have $36 trillion in debt and that money has to be refinanced, he's trying to get the 10-year yield down as much as he can to refinance some of this debt to save us billions of dollars in interest payments. Now, that is coming from, obviously, many who will support him and say this is kind of a 3D chess deal to try to save us money on interest. I'm not saying this has to happen, but how important is that as well when you talk about restructuring this debt that this country is sitting on right now and trying to do it in the most efficient way possible?
Yeah, so people have got to realize, first of all, if you watch the State of the Union here just on a couple of weeks ago, he told us this was going to happen. I mean, he said, you're going to have to give me some runway. Right now, he's playing chess, not checkers. This is not a checkers game. This is a chess game for him. And so he's trying to get that stuff refinanced, and it's almost certainly a rate cut going to come in June. Almost certainly. And that's kind of what he's banking on right now, is that we can get this refinanced at a lower rate. And like I said, get some other folks to pay for it other than the American consumer. I had a group of clients in our office yesterday doing some education, and I asked the group, I said, who in here wants to pay more taxes? I didn't see any hands. I'm like, well, that's exactly the point. Let's get China to pay some, Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying, and by extending the tax cuts from 2017 combined with some of the strategy that's going on right now, the hope is that we can, if not close the deficit, at the very least not make it any worse with this strategy that he is trying to implement.
Yeah, that's my point. And actually, in talking with my analyst last night, he said, I think, honestly, if you want my honest opinion, in the end of 3.5 years, when Trump's term's done, at least it'll still be at $36 trillion, and it won't have gone higher, which sounds like, geez almighty, $36 trillion, that's huge, but that's a big deal for it not to go higher. I urge everybody to go to usdebtclock.org. Look how fast that thing's moving up.
Oh, it's sick. Hey, we haven't talked about it yet, but a jobs report dropped this morning, and this is some good news. Payrolls increased 228,000 in the month of March. That is far beyond what the expectations were of, I think, 140,000. But the unemployment did tick up. So as I understand it, Mark, that would mean that more people are looking for work and more people are getting jobs. So it's never a bad thing when unemployment ticks up because it means that more people are actively seeking jobs in the labor market. What's your take on it?
Yeah, and there is definitely some strength underneath all this. And this is a very, like I said, this is kind of I don't want to say a blip. It's a big blip, but it's a blip. And, there's way more jobs created than what we thought was going to get created. Unemployment is doing that tick. And I'll tell you what's going on. Most of the jobs that are getting eliminated right now are with the government, which again comes back to what Trump's trying to do. And you got to remember, when the government lets go of a job, for every one job they let go of, there's usually two or three regular, normal jobs, non-government jobs that are let go too, because the government does a lot of work with the civilian world, and so that's what's kind of causing that. But I think the job market is definitely picking up.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, right? I mean, listen, I know
very good thing. Yeah.
the markets are freaking out, but Mark, to tie it back to what we said earlier, if voters made decisions exclusively based on the stock market, Kamala would be in office right now, and that's obviously not what happened here in November. So that I think gives Trump a little bit of runway here to work with. But we also know that voters have very short-term memories. So that's why you have not seen somebody try to implement a strategy like this, because everyone's just worried about the next election.
It's interesting you bring that up. I brought that very point up to my clients yesterday, and I said, think about something for a minute. I said, honestly, as I rack my brain of all the potential Republican candidates when we were up there and they were all arguing back and forth, and I thought, nobody, not one human, had the ability to have the kahunas that Trump's got right now, because every single one of them wanted reelected. And Trump knows it don't matter what I do, I can't get reelected. And when you have a president sitting in office, there's a 72% chance they will get reelected if no recession happens during their term. But if you go in as president and there's 100% chance you're not getting reelected, you're gonna say, you know what? We're gonna fix it hard. We're gonna fix it fast. We're gonna fix it permanently, and this is gonna hurt for a little while. And I think that's exactly what you're seeing.
Yeah, don't tell him that, though. He's floating out the third term idea. I say that tongue in cheek, but you're obviously right there, Mark. You're spot on with that, man. All right, what's the last words of wisdom for Mark Falter? Of course, you'll be on the air tomorrow morning at 9. But the last words of wisdom here, as people get set for what is going to be a big negative day, it looks like, for the markets.
Yeah, I mean, if you're under the age of 50 and that money's going to be in there over 10 years, just stop looking at your statements and turn the news off and go back to work.
Yeah, go back to work.
50, then, that's right. And if you're over 50, you might want to look at doing some slight reallocations right now in the more conservative stuff, because rates are still high. You can still make 3.5%, 4% on your money that's reallocated.
Yeah, go back to work. Good advice. But keep listening to KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Well done there, Mark. We appreciate you, my man, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great rest of the day.
Hey, appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Mark Falter, a Mid-American Wealth Advisory Group here in Kansas City, and, of course, the host of the Retirement Income Hour tomorrow morning at 9. It is always must listen. It will definitely be must listen tomorrow morning. You do not want to miss it. Coming up, buy, sell, hold, as we roll till 9 o'clock on a Friday. Pete Mundo on 95.7 FM, and we are continuing with stories from the Lenexa Police Department for Back the Blue tour stop number 9 in the 9 o'clock hour. All right, as you are looking right now at springtime being here, you're looking at what might be next in your home as you're doing the spring cleaning. Well, how about that new tub or shower? Where do you go? How about my friends at The Plumbing Pro here in Kansas City? Steve and his crew have been doing this for 45 years. And yes, they're your typical plumber, but they also will be your tub and shower replacement. And right now they're giving $2,000 off. They're calling it Pete's Deal with The Plumbing Pro here in Kansas City. $2,000 off and 12 months, same as cash with Pete's Deal at The Plumbing Pro for that new tub or shower. Just hit them up. I mean, they've got a 4.8 rating on Google, and that's out of 5 with hundreds of reviews. You don't have that kind of success in Kansas City as a local operator without doing a heck of a darn good job. Give them a call at 816-763-8200. Ask them about Pete's Deal, or go to the website. That's theplumbingpro.com, theplumbingpro.com.
KCMO Talk Radio is backing the Blue. Tour stop number 9 is live from Lenexa. It's Mundo in the morning.
We'll continue with some of the great stories next hour as we are rolling along with Lenexa PD. Beautiful building here in Lenexa. Brand new police department that just opened up in August. But it is that time of the week. Let's roll it.
It's time to buy, sell,
How about a damn 12 and a half, 15?
and hold.
All right, Mark in for John Anthony. John taking some well-deserved time off. What do you got for me there, Mark?
Yeah, let's buy, sell, or hold Trump's tariff strategy.
Well, you just heard from Mark Falter here on KCMO. And you know what? Right now, I'm going to buy it because I want it to work. I'm not sitting here saying, and I'm listening to Mark, don't look at the retirement accounts, okay? It's not about today. Can't be emotional about it. I'm buying it because I want it to work for the country. Because the country has been on an unsustainable path that has squeezed the middle for far too long. And I don't know if it's going to work. I don't. I understand it's high risk. It's high reward. It may colossally fail. But as Mark Falter said, you know what? Someone's got the cojones. I think he called them cajunes. But, cojones would be, I think, the proper pronunciation of this. Chris Castro, our engineer, is here. Chris, you're of Latino descent. It's cojones, right? All right, thank you. So someone's got the cojones, not the cajunes, to make sure that we at least give this a shot. Because I'll tell you what, the wealth gap has only grown the last few years since we've done nothing but print government dollars and squeeze out the little guy. You've had a growth in the poor and the rich, and the middle keeps getting squeezed. That's what's happened in this country for far too long. I don't think it's as simple as this tariff strategy is making it out to be, but you know what? I will give someone runway to try to go about closing that gap in a way that might actually end up working out. What's next, Mark?
All right, buy, sell, or hold the KCATA bringing back fares.
No brainer. Got to buy that one too. KCATA, Fox 4 had the story yesterday. They are going to bring back fares, possibly $2 fares. They should have never gone to a free fare. That was another dumb policy coming out of 2020 when equity was the name of the game. It has failed in every sense of the word. And, ridership has not reached the levels of pre-COVID, despite the fact that they had free bus fares. That's because people are like, you know what? I don't want to sit on the bus next to somebody who, frankly, is mentally unwell, smells like crap, is just there for a free ride. I don't want to do that. So free fare did not lead to an increase in ridership because ridership on the KCATA is down from pre-pandemic still to this day. And they're not meeting their budget either. Their budget's gone up 40%. The city called them out for it. And now they're like, we got to close the gap with some fares. So they're going to blame the city for why they're bringing back fares to the bus. It's safer. It's the right thing to do. And it would have never happened in Kansas City had they not had the dopey toy train downtown that was free, which created this weird dichotomy of like the working poor paying for the bus and the wealthy people downtown not paying for the toy train. They should charge for all of it. But if they charge for the toy train, I promise you no one's riding the toy train. That's their big problem. Follow it up there, Mark. What do you got for me to wrap up buy, sell, hold?
All right, we're into baseball season tonight.
Let's go.
Tonight, Orioles at Royals, 640. So I got a Royals parlay for you.
All right.
We need the Royals to get back on the winning track. Royals need to win the game.
Okay.
I've got under 8.5 runs. It's kind of chilly outside, a little bit of mist.
Yep.
So I'm going to say under 8.5 runs. Seth Lugo to throw 4 strikeouts. He threw 4 in his first start. And then Bobby Witt Jr. and Jonathan India to both get hits. They have nice numbers off today's starter, Dean Kramer.
What's the what to win what there, big boy?
$10 to win 85.
Buy it, Mark. Let's
All
go,
right.
baby. Let's go.
Let's get the baseball season started out right.
Let's go, you degenerate. I love it. Well done. Well done, my man.
Thank
All
you.
right. That's a good one there, Mark. Put that on social media on your account, Mark the Overseer, and we'll reshare it.
Will
Well
do.
done. There's buy, sell, hold in the books. I'm Pete Mundo. 9 o'clock hour, we continue from Lenexa Police Department. We've got great stories on what's happening in this community, how, of course, we've got the Blues back and they've got your back. More coming up on KCMO. We are rocking and rolling from Lenexa Police Department, where Back the Blue tour stop number 9 is underway. We're here till 10 o'clock when Kevin Keatsman, uncanceled, takes over. And we're happy to welcome on and say good morning and hello to Lenexa Sergeant Curtis Weber, who becomes a captain tomorrow. So congratulations, Curtis.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Well, for you, getting that, I guess, promotion to captain, what does that mean for you after 15 years on the department?
It's been since day one, it's one of those things that I've really worked towards, and it's been a desire of mine and a goal of mine for a long time. So it's pretty cool to walk in my dad's footsteps. He was a captain when he retired from Johnson County, and it's pretty cool to put those bars on.
Oh, that's amazing. So you grew up here. Father was a captain with the Sheriff's Department?
He was with Johnson County Park Police Department when he retired.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So how about you getting into the business? Listen, this is a business that does oftentimes pass down through generations. So was there ever a doubt that you were going to do this, or was there, ever thought of doing something else?
No, it's always been something I've enjoyed. I remember going on ride-alongs as a kid when he worked, he was working on the streets and things like that. It's what I grew up around. It's all I knew, and I knew for sure this is what I was going to do. It's a passion for me.
Now, do you have any kids yourself?
I do. I have 2 kids.
2 kids.
Yes.
All right. Age and
I've got one 11-year-old and one 9-year-old.
Boys, girls?
Both boys.
Both boys.
Yep.
Now, that was the answer I was hoping for, because this is my next question now. We have seen, and listen, I've heard from a lot of cops throughout this region who say, I did this, my dad did this, I can't imagine doing anything else. But in today's environment, I don't want my kids to do this.
I'd love to see my boys in this profession. It's a noble profession, and it's one, like I said, that I love. I know putting this badge on every day means a lot to me, and them seeing me walk out the door with that badge on, I think means a lot to them as well.
Do you think that there is a narrative shift after what has been a tough few years for this industry in general?
Sure. I mean, I think anytime we see some of the things that are happening out there, it's hard sometimes for them to see me go to work. But I think the majority of people really appreciate the work that we're doing, and the vocal minority sometimes are just too loud.
I agree. I mean, I think you're right, and I think that the majority has spoken up and spoken out over the last few years and kind of gotten that narrative back.
Absolutely.
I think you're right about that. So, obviously you do a lot here with the department, but take us through what your role is. You're becoming a captain tomorrow, and what you do here with Lenexa PD.
Yeah. So for the last several years, I've been the training unit sergeant, and it has been a position that's been very rewarding for me, just because it allows me more impact on the officers as a whole, and to really see us develop officers and put them out on the street is very rewarding.
So how about training in general? How much training do you guys go through? Does the department go through? And how do you make sure that everybody is getting the reminders they need and are staying on their game, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. So the training unit oversees officers from day one of training. They're day one of their employment, all the way through their in-house program, their academy, and then all the way to the last day of their career. So we get to see them develop all the way through their careers. For us, it's one of those that we have to stay on top of, because trying to help adults learn and figure out the best ways to get them and make them the most prepared is always a challenge for us.
Yeah, and I got to imagine, too, training changes over time. How you do any of your jobs changes over time. What's been the biggest thing that you've had to adapt to over the last few years in particular?
I think the biggest thing that we've had to adapt to is, our officers that are starting now have been exposed to a different society, a different upbringing. They were raised differently than maybe we were when we first started 15 years ago. So we really have to understand what their background is, what they are looking at, and how they understand and how they learn is probably the biggest thing we've had to adapt to.
See, and you're saying that as you're probably, 35, 40?
39.
39? Gosh, aren't I good? I guess, I'm a peer, so it makes it easy to guess. But my point is, you're under 40, and you're saying this next generation. So suddenly you're the older, or you're older than the guys coming in at this point. So it's a different generation.
It is.
But you're a millennial. So what is making this Gen Z different in terms of how you got to go about working with them?
I really think it's what they've been exposed to and how they were raised.
Okay.
The things that they've been exposed to in the media and, their different outlook on, how they view empathy and how they view society is different. And we have to understand what they were brought up in.
But then you also got to give them a dose of reality, too,
Absolutely.
and say, listen, this isn't the movies here, okay? This isn't a TV show. This isn't Law & Order SVU. Like, there are things that you cannot do because if you do what you think you need to do, you'll get yourself killed.
That's absolutely right.
And that's got to be something and if it's not you, you're going to get your partner killed in some situations.
That's right. Yeah, and we're very fortunate here at Lenexa, just really anywhere in this county. I would recommend, or I would suggest that, we have the ability to go to trainings. Our officers are required across the state. Everybody's required to have 40 hours of training. I would say our officers average about 150 hours of training, mostly that they seek out, and we send people all across the country to seek out that training and bring it back here to Lenexa. And we expect that you're going to come back and teach that to us as well.
What about, I know you oversee, obviously, SWAT.
Yes.
What is that like in Lenexa in particular? How is it different here versus maybe other communities?
Sure. We do. We have a SWAT team. I'm our team leader. And, everybody says, well, what do you do? You're in Lenexa. I get that question from family all the time. And I think a lot of times people in these communities kind of bury their heads in the sand.
Yeah.
And they don't realize some of the things that we're doing, my family included. And my wife will say, well, what'd you do? And we talk about like a search warrant. She's like, you just go hand them papers. I'm like, no, that's not what we do.
Yeah.
So I think the reality is that no matter what community you're in, there's going to be bad people out there. And we have to have the people that have the capability to go out there and the capacity to handle those situations.
And I'm glad you brought that up because, listen, no one's trying to highlight crime anywhere, but the reality is Lenexa has grown 60% over the last 25, 30 years or so, and just with more bodies comes more potential for crime. So how do you try to maintain that high level of living that Lenexa has, but knowing full well the bigger you get, city centers here now, there's just more happening. You're going to get some bad people looking to do bad things.
Yeah. And our officers understand that we live in a very unique community. We have super affluent people,
Yeah.
Very affluent people, and we have people that aren't. And you look at the transient population, we're in the middle of I-35, 435,
Yeah.
K7, K10. You've got people coming and going from our community all day, every day.
And that's a great point because you have that 35 corridor where we know there is, drug trafficking coming up from all parts of the country, other countries, obviously, southern border. So how do you handle that with, that part of town in particular, knowing full well there are bad people, not maybe looking to do bad things in Lenexa, but passing through?
Yeah, I think our officers have to have the ability to be to adapt to any situation. We train our officers from day one that they have to understand that you have to have the ability to face any situation you're faced with, and you just have to apply your training. You have to have the ability to adapt to those things, and if you aren't, you're not going to be a good police officer, and that's why we give them that training.
What is your advice to young people who are considering getting into this line of work as, the training coordinator here?
Yeah, I wouldn't do any other job. This job means a lot to me, and it has been a lot of fun. It's only been 15 years, and I've got another several years left, but it's fun. It's something new every day. Get your mind right and come join us. It's a great place to work.
You got openings here?
We do. We currently have 8 officer openings.
Okay. All right. Off the top of your head, do you know what those start at for people that are interested?
We're right about $64,000.
All right. That's a good place to be starting at.
Yeah,
Very well
it's
done.
very good. We've been taken care of by our city administration, and we're very supported here in Lenexa.
Taxpayer is, of course, supporting Lenexa PD.
Absolutely.
So, well done. Lenexa Sergeant, soon to be captain tomorrow, Curtis Weber on KCMO. Thank you. I appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. Curtis Weber on KCMO Talk Radio. We'll talk to the Lenexa crime analyst, Lindsay Calvillo, coming up next on 95.7 FM. KCMO Talk Radio, Back the Blue Tour Stop number 9. Now, did you know that diamonds are April's birthstone? So that means it's the perfect time to shine. Whether you're getting engaged, celebrating an anniversary, Mother's Day is right around the corner. Diamonds Direct has gorgeous options, great value, and custom designs. And they've got a great showroom right there at 119th and Row that I have been to many times. Some would argue more times than maybe I care to admit. But the reality is we keep going back because Angie and her team take great care of us here on KCMO Talk Radio. So if you're thinking about that engagement, that anniversary, that Mother's Day gift, maybe a graduation gift, go to Diamonds Direct. Tell them that we sent you. You will get that white glove service. They are not pushy salespeople. They'll make sure you get what you want. And you know what? You tell them your budget, and they'll work within it. That's what they do. They will not try to upsell you because there's nothing I can't stand more than pushy salespeople, and that's not what you get there. Free cleanings and a lifetime of upgrades as well. That is where you want to go. Diamonds Direct. Check them out at diamondsdirect.com or just head right down the road, say hi at 119th and Row.
KCMO's Back the Blue Tour stop number 9 is live from Lenexa. Here's Pete Mundo.
Lenexa crime analyst Lindsay Calvillo is here on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio, streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Lindsay, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's just start off with this. A crime analyst, I learned in the last 2 minutes, is not what I think it is based on watching Law and Order. So
Correct.
that is news to me. I'm happy, and I know the audience will want to hear more on that. So what exactly is your role as a crime analyst?
All right. Well, first, I'm going to start with what we're not. Most people think that we are crime scene investigators. We are not on the scene collecting evidence. We are here at the police department. We're reviewing case reports, we're reviewing intelligence, and we're trying to help support investigations through all of their cases, whether that's violent crime, property crime, financial crime, those sorts of things. And we're working towards crime prevention on the patrol side. So any active situations that are happening right now, we're trying to help inform patrol and get them in the right place at the right time to prevent crime from happening. We also do educational pieces. I teach internet safety courses and fraud prevention workshops for elderly. I also do things for kids and families. So we're really about trying to prevent crime and apprehend suspects.
Okay, that's amazing and a good place to start. Now, when it comes to internet crime, especially for older folks, I mean, this is, maybe crisis is too strong a word, but it's a major problem. And I'm sure you're seeing it every single day where you've got old ladies who are by themselves getting fleeced out of hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases. So what's your message to these folks as they try to avoid these scams?
Well, sadly, it is a huge crisis, and it's not just elderly. We see people that are in their 30s, in their 20s, in their 50s, 60s, all across the board who are scammed out of money. And those can come in the form of emails, they can come in phone calls, they can come in on social media.
I got a text yesterday I think
Yes.
was a scam.
I'm sure you did. The big thing I would tell people is if you do not know who you are talking to, they are probably trying to scam you. If they want payment that's in cryptocurrency, if they want payment that's by a gift card, if they want you to go and if they want you to go to a Bitcoin and ATM, that is a scam for sure. If they are trying to scare you out of your money, it is absolutely a scam.
Yeah, I got this text yesterday at 10:30 in the morning. Hi, Dad, can you text my work phone? I dropped my cell phone into the sink today, and now it won't turn on. This was at 10:28 yesterday, and my kids are 6, 4, and 1. So I knew it was a scam. But hey, you know, I guess if your kids are older, you might fall for something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's really easy, and scammers are really good at knowing what drives people to pay them money.
Children, right?
Children, yeah. Children, any sort of scare tactics, like law enforcement. They'll say that they're law enforcement calling you, and you need to pay for your warrants. They'll say they're the IRS or Social Security Administration, and you need to pay this. But no law enforcement agency and no government agency is going to ask you to pay through gift cards or through Bitcoin. So just know those things. And it's really easy to fall into that trap because they're really good at convincing people that this is what you need to take care of right now.
How many of them are in the States versus being overseas?
It's hard to say. We've had cases here where they are local to the metro area, but there's also a lot that are from, anywhere around the world. So it really just depends on what the scam is. But we've seen plenty, particularly if you're on social media, any of those Facebook Marketplace sort of deals, or if you get something still through Craigslist or things like that, a lot of those are going to be your local criminals. But if you get it on the phone, it's probably about a 70-30 chance it's overseas, but there's still plenty in the States.
That's amazing. Lenexa crime analyst Lindsay Calvillo is here on KCMO. So what about mail thefts and what's going on that front here in Lenexa and Johnson County?
Yeah, since the end of November, we've been having mail drop boxes at postal locations that have been targeted by thieves because it's tax season. They're targeting checks so that they can alter those and get lots of money out of that. So in Johnson County alone, we've seen about $2.5 million loss by residents and businesses. And in Lenexa, about $500,000. So we're really trying to urge the public to use caution and go inside those postal services when you drop off your checks.
Wow. Okay, that's good to know. Now, when it comes to, I know thankfully we're in a community where there's not a lot of violent crime, but how do you guys assist as crime analysts on violent crime in this community?
Well, if our detectives are working on any sort of violent crime, we can help by supporting whoever our case detective is. We can help support trying to identify suspects, trying to help locate where they've been in the metro, any previous cases in law enforcement anywhere in the nation, but particularly in the metro area. We try to help dig into some of their data to locate where they've been, however we need to do that, and to determine if we have to, we can try to determine how they were connected to the victims and things like that to see if there's ongoing things we need to know about, like retaliation or things like that.
Okay, and that's obviously important because the case can unfold in a certain way based on any fears of retaliation that may be potentially, at risk for some of these folks,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
Wow. Well, this is great. Lenexa crime analyst Lindsay Calvillo on KCMO. What else with this role in particular makes you unique and I guess is misunderstood by the public?
Well, I think that a lot of people, because they see on TV all of these cool things that they can do, that you see like the TV shows where people are just pulling things up magically. We don't really have a magic 8-ball. So digging into any of this data and trying to find people, we have to do a lot of work. A lot of research goes into that. So we have to be really up to date on open source information and how to get information from the publicly available web. But we also need to know how to use third-party software systems in our own house, and we also need to be up to date on technology because we use a lot of technology in our office to try to help support every aspect of the police department. We touch every unit, so we try to make as big an impact as we can.
That's great. Well, you spent 5.5 years in Independence. You've been here in Lenexa for 5 years. I know you know those folks over there in Independence well. We were there last spring, about a year ago at this time, doing a Back the Blue tour stop. So thank you, Lindsay. We appreciate the insight, and we'll have you again soon.
All right. Thank you.
All
Thanks for
right.
having me.
You bet. We got the news coming up in 2 minutes, and then we will talk to a pair of detectives with Lenexa PD before Kevin Keatsman uncanceled.
KCMO's Back the Blue Tour stop number 9 is live from Lenexa. Here's Pete Mundo.
We got a half hour to go here on KCMO Talk Radio. Happy to welcome on and say good morning to a pair of detectives, Betsy Peterson and Caitlin Demarest, joining us on KCMO. Good morning to you both. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Thanks
Let's
for
just
having
pull
us.
those mics up nice and close for me. That way, whoa, there you go, sounding loud and clear. So let's start off with something we were just talking about off the air, and that is the massive increase in children being targeted online. I know you both deal with this, unfortunately, on a regular basis. So first off, what are the numbers behind the increases in children being targeted online, Betsy, and what that looks like, and how you've been dealing with it here in Lenexa?
Sure. So from statistics we've gotten with NCMEC, which is the National Center for Missing and Exploiting Children, between 2021 and 2023, there was a 300% increase in reporting of children being exploited online. And in 2023, NCMEC received over almost 36 million tips of some type of child sexual exploitation happening online.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So then, from your perspective, Caitlin, as you're dealing with these cases, what are you noticing trend-wise, and what should parents right now who are listening be cognizant of and be aware of with this stuff only increasing on the internet and on their phones?
Yeah, I mean, these predators are targeting children on apps, gaming apps. One of the apps that I dislike the most is Roblox. They are, these kids are creating a universe, or these people are creating a universe on there where if you have an interest in Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, you can find a room to go in, and then they're targeting these children by, striking up a chat with them. And then next thing you know, these kids, are very trusting, and they're sending photos to these people and starting what they think are real relationships. That's just long distance. And those applications are supposed to be monitored, but, people will find ways around keywords by, doing a space between lettering, so it doesn't necessarily notify the people who are supposed to be monitoring these rooms.
So are these, this is, I guess, maybe more of a general question on the targeting of these kids. Are they targeting them for child pornography purposes, or are they targeting them for, God forbid, trafficking purposes? Like what's the breakdown there in terms of what the end game is here? Both?
Yeah, I think you see a lot of both. I think it's probably the majority will likely be the what you call child pornography. We now refer to it as CSAM, or child sexual abuse material. And honestly, these predators communicate with each other, so it wouldn't be surprising if they get one child sucked into a conversation, they will share that child with somebody else or introduce them to somebody else if they think they can facilitate some sort of trafficking versus CSAM that they can trade. A lot of it is going to be CSAM, maybe not hands-on, meaning that predator is going to physically touch that child, but that predator will get that child to share photos or videos with them.
Are these predators oftentimes, are they local, are they national, or are they overseas?
Both.
All the above.
We, we also work on the ICAC, the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, and just last week, a warrant was served here in the city of Lenexa for a suspect trying to elicit photos and videos and connect with a 14-year-old. It happens on a very regular basis here in Johnson County and in Lenexa.
Yep, and a lot of times they're taking those photos and they're selling them on the dark web.
Really?
Yes.
So that's they're making money off this too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not just for their own purposes. It's a money making operation.
Absolutely.
And the dark web is very, very real. I know people kind of hear that, and it's like almost like a myth.
A conspiracy.
Yes,
or something.
a conspiracy. But yes, there is the dark web, and there is criminal activity happening on that web.
And they're targeting kids right here in our backyard.
Absolutely.
It'd be naive for parents to think that their kids could not get tied up in this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what about, in terms of things that you want parents to know about, what should they be looking out for? Are there red flags that you would, advise them to keep an eye on?
I think the number one thing is if you're going to allow your child to have a phone or these applications, which I understand at certain ages, it just is what it is. But I think the most important thing to do is to make sure you're very aware of parental restrictions on it. There's so many controls that parents can have. It can just be a real pain to set those up. And most of them can be set up where they can only chat with friends that they connect with. And a lot of these just come with the predators pretending to be another kid gaming with them. And so it's just doing your best to be aware of who they're communicating with and what apps they have.
How about you, Caitlin?
I think that parents should have access to that phone. They should know their child's password. It should be an understanding that I'm going to trust you to have this device, but I also need to have access to it, because it's not about privacy at that point in time. You're protecting your child. And so I think it's very important that a parent has the ability to grab that phone and make sure that they can look at messaging, kids are smart these days. They can hide files and they can password protect pictures. You should always be able to access those files. There shouldn't be any unknown passwords to parents.
And I want to say real quick, I think it's important, we're talking about online stuff, but I think it's important for us to remember that a lot of the cases that we're getting are also kids willingly sharing these images with each other in school right now, where, show our age. We used to write letters back and forth to each other or notes, now it's send nudes. And that's a very regular thing. And it's become to the point where a lot of kids won't date unless you do that first. So it's important that parents realize that this is happening in messages too, with the pressure from schools, not just online.
With the pressures from schools, you mean just the pressure of being in these schools every day?
Yes, I apologize.
Just peer pressure?
Peer pressure.
Just being a kid these days,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what it's like, because like Betsy said, we used to pass notes and very innocent stuff. But now these kids, they think that this is normal behavior.
Absolutely.
And it's common for them, and the pressure of being popular. Well, this is what the popular kids are doing, so I need to do it too. We get a lot of those kind of cases.
And it's not unique based on socioeconomic levels or anything. It
Nope.
sounds like it's just across the board right now.
Nope, it's just
Absolutely.
it's basically part of school. And
Yep.
there needs to be, I think, classes that these kids take about internet safety so that they're educated.
And I encourage parents to go to the NCMEC website, which is ncmec.org, I believe. But it has a lot of resources for them, and they've also created a program called Take It Down for when they do know that there are nude images of themselves out there, and ways to work through it. So I encourage parents to go visit that.
Well, as a father of 3 daughters, you're now making me feel like the oldest one's 6, so it seems like I won't let her get a phone until she's about 26 at this point.
That's my plan with my kids.
Yeah, I was going to say, you both have kids. The flip phone's coming back.
Yeah.
That seems like a pretty, I had that old Nokia back in the day. Seems like those are kind of maybe the best way to balance this thing, where you want your kids to have some connection, but you block them off from all of the crazy.
Well, so you would think that would be something that parents would want, but I've had cases where parents are like, well, I don't want them to not have access to Instagram, to not have access to TikTok, because then that would make them and alienate them from being popular with their friends.
Well, and we need to be realistic too. Coaches, teams, things like that are moving to things like Snapchat or Instagram or these other, even like the encrypted text apps. Unfortunately, they're moving to those, requiring the kids to have them to communicate with their teams.
Why would coaches want their kids on TikTok?
Oh, so I think for a lot of purposes, recruiting for college is done through Instagram.
And that's how you get, you start your history in a sport. Like, you show the videos, you show what you're doing.
Look at my great reel, look at my great pass in football, whatever.
So it's not necessarily they're having ill intent. It's just they're going to have access
It's
to
a
these.
recruiting reel
Right.
in many respects,
And,
right?
like Twitter, these kids will get on there and say, I just got an offer from
Yeah.
such and such college. I feel blessed.
Mm-hmm.
So they're basically letting other coaches know, like,
Yes.
hey, you better get on this recruiting train if you want me to go to your school. So they're using it a lot, and I see it a lot with sports, and maybe not so much, but there's also those gaming applications like Fortnite. We're starting to see predators trying to talk to kids on Fortnite and all those games. It's very unsettling on how many places that kids can be touched by complete strangers.
I didn't expect us to take all the time on this, but I just think this issue is critical right now, and parents care so much about it. And if they don't care about it, they should care about it. So what is you've talked about some of the advice to parents, just being aware, not letting them have free reign on these things. Is there anything else that you would make sure they know or they're aware of or recommend to them with the way the world is right now and what you're doing as detectives here with Lenexa PD?
Yeah, I'll say that we're always willing to give training to anybody that feels like they could use it in a group or anything like that. But I think the number one key is to have an open communication with your child. Let them know that they can trust you and that you'll support them, because a lot of these things don't get reported up front because of the fear and the embarrassment. Have that open communication with your child and recognize that everybody makes mistakes. And if you work with your child, the best honest communication you have, then you will do your best to avoid it. But it doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
And what about Caitlin? You've been at this for 10 years. I feel like 10 years ago, parents were just more naive on this stuff. The smartphone was relatively new. It came out, 17 years ago, the iPhone. So the one thing I'll say for now is I guess parents raising kids now are more aware of this stuff in a way maybe they weren't 10 years ago. So that is one good thing going on.
Sure. I think a big thing is education. One, educate yourself on the applications that you're allowing your kids to download and what the purposes are for that application. Do they get to talk to other people? Can other people communicate with your child? And also educate your child. I know sex is a very taboo subject and sometimes hard to talk about, but the more your kid knows about, the dangers and the possibilities that could happen by sending your photo out and doing that stuff, I think that is a good way to deter that.
Well, this was a great but also serious conversation to be having right now because parents need to hear it. So Lenexa detectives Betsy Peterson and Caitlin Demarest, thank you both for being here on KCMO.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. We'll wrap up the show with Kevin Keatsman next on 95.7 FM.
KCMO Talk Radio is backing the Blue. Tour stop number 9 is live from Lenexa. It's Mundo in the morning.
As Chris Castro, our producer, on-site engineer extraordinaire, just said, these shows always fly by, and we are happy to be... Oh, I turned down my own mic. That's what happens when I start hitting the buttons here. Hang on. Hey, there he is, Kevin Keatsman. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Good morning. I came by to see you guys, but I couldn't get back there.
Oh, they wouldn't let you back here?
Well, they said you had to come get me. I said, he's on the air, and I just came by to thank the people of Lenexa and the police department and the force there. I live in Lenexa. I've been a homeowner since 1999 in Lenexa. The Justice Center there is fantastic. You were broadcasting. I was on my way in, headed to get some iced tea, and I thought I'll swing by and say hi to Pete, and especially Castro, because he's always having a good day. I like that guy a lot. And thank the people there at the police department. So I thank the folks out front. I understand. It's a very secure area and stuff. I'm like, no, I don't want to hold anybody up. I'll just leave and go to the office, and it's all good.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, they got great folks here, and this building is just, you live here, so you've driven by it a million times.
Yeah.
I don't have much of a reason to be over this way, but man, it is top of the line, this place.
Yeah, Lenexa's finest are top of the line, too. They've only come to my house twice. It's true. It's true. I shared the stories with the ladies up front. I got called. We moved into a new house a little over 3 years ago, and we have a little back patio and stuff, but there's woods behind us. And then beyond the woods and the creek, there's another house. There's more houses back there. But we were at like 9:15 on a Saturday night one night. I mean, it's harmless stuff. We're playing some Fleetwood Mac on the outdoor speakers, And a lady who lived back there, she's since moved. She lived alone. I guess she was a wacky, I'll say it, I think she was a wacky liberal. And she knew we moved in. She called the cops on us because the ordinance says when sun goes down, you can't play loud outdoor music. Well, it wasn't loud, but she could kind of hear it in some way. So she called the police on us. Nothing happened. We were already inside by the time they got there. The other time was many years ago, Pete. We used to have a fireworks show at Falcon Ridge Golf Course in Lenexa. We started doing the fireworks show at the radio station for the people of Lenexa because the Shawnee Mission Park fireworks show was ended. So we took that up because I really started it in my backyard. We had a lake back behind there on the golf course. And so we started this fireworks show, and Lenexa's finest came and shut it down. And that's when I worked with the council and the great people of the city of Lenexa and started our own fireworks show at the golf course legally with the fire department for about 10 years. So wonderful people to work with. Mayor Boehm, who's now retired, was one of the best mayors any city could possibly have. And the folks there with the Lenexa Police Department are just top-notch.
That's great. Those are two good stories. I am convinced, though, that your neighbor just did not like your Stevie Nicks impression while you sang Landslide on your back patio.
I think that might have been my buddy Cato's wife, Tina, that was singing. Actually, there's no question that if Tina was there that night, I'm trying to think, I think Dwayne and Audra were there for sure. If Tina was there, she would have been louder than any music we had. No question. And she listens to your show and my show every day. Tina, you're loud. It's just a fact.
It's a fact. You know what? We all know that person. Now, is she one of those people who does not think she's loud and is actually very loud?
And won't get her hearing checked.
Oh, one of those, too. All right. Oh, that's tough, man. That's tough.
But she's the life of the party. We love her to death.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing that. Did you hear Mark's parlay this morning by chance?
I did. It went a little bit over my head, but I like it. So he's going to write it down for me, and I'm going to find it, and I'm going to play it, too.
Okay. He's got Royals winning tonight against the Orioles, under 8.5 runs. Seth Lugo, 4 strikeouts. Bobby Witt and India to get hits. I mean, 10 to win 85. I like those odds for him there.
I like Lugo over 4 best of all those.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, that's not very many strikeouts. It's a cold night.
Yeah.
How many did he have in his first outing, Mark? 6?
4.
He had 4.
He had 4, yeah.
Oh, I don't like it as much now, but he's got to go deeper. He didn't get out of the 5th, did he?
Yeah, he should go longer.
Should go deeper tonight. He's a fly ball pitcher. Ball's not going to go out of the park, so he's going to get a lot of fly ball outs. I like the over strikeouts of those the best.
What's the over-under on attendance on a, rainy 45-degree night out at the K?
What they tell us or how many people are there?
How many are there?
Man, I got to think they'll do great if they get 15,000 people in there tonight.
Yeah, that was going to be my guess, 15,000. That would be a really good number. I mean, the Orioles are good. It's actually a great series, but the weather's not going to help them this weekend.
It's Bark at the Park, so those people with dogs will be there. The dogs love this weather.
Have you been out there for one of those?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're absolutely going to go. We thought about doing it tonight, but it's just a little too chilly. We're not going to go out there and do that tonight. But I think they do it about once a month. We love it. Our dog gets along with everyone. They got a little baby pool, a plastic baby pool that they fill with water that all the dogs drink out of. It is so much fun to take your dog to a Royals game.
What about those people who think that their dog is super friendly and their dogs are really unfriendly?
Never saw one. Not at a Bark at the Park. Nope. And we were just in Arizona at spring training. We went on Bark night there. Not a single dog. There was not one bit of trouble. I think people know if their dogs are crazy.
Okay. All right. Because
think.
that's great to hear, because I wouldn't do it just because I don't trust other people to not bring their insane dogs who need muscles.
Well, this is you know me, I've got opinions. It's not the dog, it's the people that own the dog. You see a crazy dog, it's on the humans.
Well, but I agree, and that's where it's like the crazy human does know their dog is crazy because they're crazy.
Right. There you go. They're probably not buying a Royals ticket to take their crazy selves and crazy dog to the game.
Touche. You're right. They're probably not normal, level-headed sports fans.
That's right.
All
That's
right.
exactly right.
Well, hey, man, enjoy the weekend. We'll be listening to Uncanceled, and thanks for stopping by and wishing these people well at Lenexa PD.
Thank you, buddy. I hope Kansas City appreciates your commitment to the blue all over Kansas City. This is awesome what you do, buddy.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And thank you to, of course, Lenexa Police Department and the great work that everybody is doing here, from the chief, who was fantastic, Dawn Lehman, on down. All the interviews will be up on the podcast after the show wraps up, and we'll also put the whole thing up on KCMOTalkRadio.com. So Back the Blue Tour Stop number 9 in the books on KCMO. Have a great weekend. We're back Monday morning at 6 a.m. Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled next. Your last chance at those Dave Ramsey tickets at 10:45. Have a great day.